When you're looking at a 55-inch 4K display that's also trying to be a sound system, the first question that pops into most people's heads is whether you're really getting two good things in one, or just a compromise that leaves you shortchanged on both. I get that hesitation. You've probably seen a lot of all-in-one screens that promise crystal clear video and booming audio, only to find the speakers sound thin and the screen's touch latency is noticeable. The goal of this review is to cut through the marketing and help you decide if the ViewSonic IFP5541 actually fits the way you work or entertain, and whether it's worth the price tag. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. Let's start with the context in which a unit like this ends up in a home or office. The IFP5541 is marketed as an interactive ViewBoard, essentially a giant tablet that runs Android, supports 64-point touch, and pulls power and video through a single 100W USB-C cable. That alone solves a lot of cable clutter for conference rooms, classrooms, or a family media hub. But because it also houses a 55W soundbar and an integrated microphone array, you're being asked to trust it for both visual collaboration and audio playback. That's a tall order, and the real-world experience hinges on three things: how clear the dialogue sounds, whether the bass is enough for movies or music, and how the unit behaves in different room sizes. In my own setup, I tested the display in a medium-sized living room about 250 square feet with a modest amount of furniture that can absorb sound. I connected a laptop via USB-C and ran a Zoom call, then switched to a Netflix movie, and finally opened a collaborative whiteboard app for a quick design sketch. The first impression was that the 4K panel is genuinely sharp. Text stays crisp even when you're zoomed in with the touch. The 64-point touch felt fluid. No ghost touches or lag when I dragged multiple fingers to zoom in on a diagram. That's a solid win for anyone who needs real-time annotation, whether it's a teacher marking up a lesson or a team brainstorming ideas. Now onto the audio. The integrated soundbar is 55W, which, on paper, sounds decent for a display of this size. In practice, the dialogue clarity is where it shines. During the Zoom call, the built-in microphone array captured my voice clearly, and the speaker reproduced the other participants' voices without the typical tinny quality you get from thin TV speakers. The soundstage was narrow. You don't get a full surround feel, but you do get a focused mid-range that makes speech easy to understand even when the room has a low hum from the fridge. If you're using this for remote learning or corporate meetings, that clarity is a genuine advantage. Bass, however, tells a different story. A 55W soundbar on a 55-inch screen can only push so much low-frequency energy. When I played a movie with a lot of action, think Mad Max-style explosions, the punch was present but not deep. The thuds felt more like a tap than a rumble, and you can tell the lack of a dedicated subwoofer. In a small bedroom, that might be fine. You get enough presence to enjoy the soundtrack without shaking the walls. In a larger living room, you'll likely feel the need to add a separate sub or soundbar if you want that cinema-grade low-end. So the unit is a good step up from typical TV speakers, but it's not a replacement for a full home theater system. Surround effect is essentially non-existent. The soundbar is a single unit mounted at the bottom of the screen, so you get a forward-facing sound field. For movies, the effect is limited to a widened front channel. There's no real immersion from side or rear speakers. That aligns with what most people expect from an all-in-one display. It's meant to augment, not replace, a dedicated surround setup. If your primary goal is a movie night upgrade in a medium room, the IFP5541 will make dialogue clearer than a standard TV, but you shouldn't expect it to deliver the enveloping atmosphere of a 5.1 system. Connectivity is where the ViewSonic really leans into simplicity. The single-cable USB-C handles power, video, and touch data, which means you can keep a laptop or a thin client plugged in and forget about it. For streaming, the Android OS runs apps like YouTube, Netflix, and even Microsoft Teams directly on the screen, so you can bypass a separate streaming box. I did notice a slight delay when switching between apps, about a second or two, but that's typical for Android on larger displays and didn't impact my workflow. The remote that comes with the unit is minimalistic. It basically controls volume and power, with a few shortcut buttons for source selection. There's no backlit trackpad or voice control, which keeps the learning curve low, but also means you're still relying on the touchscreen for most navigation. Practical strengths summed up are the clean USB-C cable management, the responsive 64-point touch, and the clear mid-range audio that makes meetings and